Welcome back to Cheddar News. The metaverse is a term that many probably heard for the first time this year, but a wide range of companies are already attempting to stake their claim. Some are looking to power the next big wave in tech, while others are just looking to take advantage of it. Either way, it seems as if the metaverse is poised to gradually become more and more immersed in the everyday lives of society over the next several years. So here now to discuss is Lego Professor of Management and Innovation at IMD Business School in Switzerland, Howard Yu. Now, first, let's start with this. What does a curriculum look like for a Lego Professor of Management and Innovation, and how does your role at the IMD Business School involve the metaverse?
So at IMD, we run a lot of executive education, and I also host the Lego Chair Professorship at IMD. So we did a lot of research and talking with executive and trying to understand what is going on in the future. And just like some of the elements you already prime, the retailing space probably is one of the fastest changing sector after technology itself. So every company is thinking about, in order to remain that cutting edge, what does that future look like? And I think metaverse really opened up a window for brands to thinking about how can they ongoing wise engage with the consumer, engage with the target audience, so that their brand continues to stay refreshed in the changing environment.
So we've heard of companies like Meta and Roblox that are looking to power the metaverse, if you will, but talk about how companies, if you can, like Nike and Boeing and others are also looking to take advantage.
Yeah, right now we're seeing a lot of experimentation because there's no standard right now. So whether you're Nike or whether you're Boeing, you're trying to experiment with these emerging technology. And in a way, if you're thinking about Nike or the Lego Group, for instance, all this consumer brand is thinking about how can we leverage metaverse to continue to forge these direct to consumer relationship. Not that too long ago, consumer brand is really around building standard product, push through standard channel, boost by national advertisement. And today it's all about curated offering, personalized offering, and going through omni-channel. And in a way, metaverse really opens up a new path or new format for ownership. So Nike obviously is thinking about using NFT technologies, for instance. No matter where you purchase your digital gadget, it would certify as authentic. And this is one mode for future ownership as well. And Boeing obviously would be thinking something quite differently, perhaps tying back to industrial-based internet.
So IMD put out a report called the Future Readiness Indicator, which measures companies' readiness for the future. Can you offer some of the details about what the report found and how it relates to the metaverse?
Sure. So we use quite a precise definition about future readiness. We're really looking at how do these organizations can develop new form of capability ahead of competition. So not that too long ago, everyone is talking about e-commerce and digitization. What the pandemic have shown, there are great brands that stay on top of competition, like Nike, like Lululemon, which stay on top of our ranking. And during the pandemic, they were able to pivot in a very big way to capitalize this new growth despite of retail lockdown, for instances. And there are other average industry player, and we heard a lot of these brands suffer so much that file for bankruptcy during the pandemic, for instances. Those are the sort of illustration that just talking about digitization is not enough. But in fact, you need to scale those future capability ahead of time going forward. So now going back to 2021 and moving towards 2022, of course, metaverse, starting with the technology sector, now unfold many use case scenario. And so consumer brand like Nike's really need to leverage and going big. Now, whatever they are forming may not work out, but that's okay. This is part of the organizational learning. Remember, 15 years ago, Nike already built this sensor for you to put on the back of your sneakers and track your running performance, beaming data to your iPod. That's before iPhone. So it takes time for a company to learn.
Yeah, the Nike Plus, and also Under Armour has the same thing right now in their shoe. Now, many people, I just looked at that list, and I'm not seeing Apple or Microsoft or companies like that, those big tech companies on that list. I think Apple finished 9th. So why are these massive tech companies so low on the list?
Oh, so we do run these analysis by the sector. So in the technology sector, Apple wasn't moving as fast as company like you mentioned, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. They are much more, or Meta these days. They are much ranking higher than companies such as Intel or Apple. In large part because of in the technology sector, you have to branch out to new product and services. And if you're asset heavy, if you're engaged in a lot of manufacturing segment, sometimes it does confine or limit your ability to branch out to new services and so on. But overall, what we're trying to do is to take a balanced portfolio in understanding which companies across sector are more future ready. So first, of course, your current business needs to be strong. Your investor sentiment is high on you, like bullish, such as the PE ratio, but all the way to new product launch. So we try to have a measure composite score across all these sectors as a final measurement.
So how important are gaming companies to future plans for the metaverse, and which companies seem to be already leading the way in the space? NVIDIA and AMD comes to mind. We hear Roblox, which is gaming, and you hear of Fortnite also, which is gaming. So a lot of folks think that they're going to be the ones to take us there. A lot of people think NVIDIA and AMD are going to be the ones that keep us there. So what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. In our ranking for the tech sector, AMD and NVIDIA is all-time high, and in large part because despite the semiconductor shortages, they were able to branch out to, like you said, on video games and AI and all these new service areas as well. But I think this is also where the use case would diverge between China as well as the rest of the world in the Western world. The very straightforward application obviously is gaming. But in China, we already see a lot of regulation in terms of the limitation for underage children in playing video games. So in China, my prediction is they would move towards more like the industrial-based internet. Their application of metaverse would be around factory setting, for instance, like remote support. Things like Boeing have already begun to articulate, which should not be a surprise after all, because Boeing is selling, or they were predicting over the next 2 decades, China is going to buy something like over 8,000 aircraft. So in a way, Boeing definitely want to embed themselves in that alternative ecosystem. So what we're seeing is, again, the metaverse is going to diverge. The Chinese type of user scenario may look infinitely different than the Western world going forward as well.
It feels like everyone I speak to about the metaverse are very bullish on it. You know what I mean? Like everyone thinks it's the next big thing, but what if this is a huge flop? Then what happens to these companies? Where do we go from here?
I think it would be just like the dot-com bubble, 15 years ago. Sometimes things go through a hype and it doesn't live up to expectation and then it dies. But what matters is the infrastructure will stay there. What the dot-com bubble leaves us is this great, supply of infrastructure in terms of broadband and things like that. That gives rise to the second wave of the internet. This is when Google and Facebook at the time really took advantage. So if, metaverse doesn't pan out, but the ubiquitous connectivity, 5G, all of these hardware putting in place will still be there. So there will be the next wave of entrepreneurs. Take advantage of them to come up with new usage we could never dream up of. But this is the nature of innovation. We could never perfectly predict the future. And I guess this is also part of the excitement too.
All right. See, I like that answer, because you might not get the cake, but unless you keep you get to keep the dough. I love that. Now, Howard Yu, Lego Professor of Management Innovation at IMD Business School. Sir, thank you so much for being with us.